Yo, GM. Let me get a GM in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know the volume's good. We are live. Take a look in the chat real quick to see who we got. Be in the mood for ambiance. Lock and loaded GM. Oh, it's my good buddy Cobalt from the AFM TG group chat. This is who ambiance is. GM to you too, buddy. Rat Division, Mr. Monsieur Fromage, GM, buddy. Good to see you too. Hermit, GM, buddy. Good to see you. Thanks for showing up, as you tend to do. You've been one of the most loyal live stream viewers and frequent in the AFM chat. I'm sure most of the guys in the chat by now know that you are also Genghis in AFM. One of the chads that I brought on as admin in the past week. A lot of changes have occurred in the AFM TG group and in the direction, which is really great to see. Prince says, GM to you too, buddy. I've been noticing you in the chat, so thank you so much for showing up. D5 says, yo, GM. PZ says, GM to you too. Luke says, hey, everyone. Well, hey, back right at you. How's everyone doing today? The volume's good? Let me know if the volume's good. I think I've sent out what I needed to around chats and everything, letting people know that we're live. Learning all the nuances of doing these, the social media posting aspect of things, so we can try and grow this YouTube channel, grow the TG group, as well grow my account as well. So just, all those little things that you don't really think about until you're like actively participating in those things that pop up. That it's like a checklist that you got to remember to do each time. And I feel like I'm getting a little bit more streamlined and faster with the approach, but it's still a learning process. What are we at? We're on episode 11. 11 of these so far. Man, it's been quite a journey. From the very first streams on a market bloodbath kind of day, which kind of became a theme for a little while, that I was doing all these streams, and they just so happened to coincide with some blood in the market. I see Mr. Smile, I believe that's how you pronounce that, says, GM, let's get it. And my good buddy Too Tall, he said he's live. Thanks so much for being here, my friend. Always appreciate your support. Another one of the admins in our AFM TG. He doesn't pop in too often, but when he does, I mean, he's one of the guys I go to when I'm trying to work out a thesis. He's real nice with the thesis. So thanks for stopping by, Mr. Too Tall. Okay, now that we've got all that stuff out of the way. Oh, 1 second. I'm just going to close my office door. And we can get into it. How's the market doing? Well, you guys know that I like to start off by showing the majors, although I do almost forgot. Part of the checklist of things to do. Welcome to Astrology for Men. I am 0xRapture, where I will chart any shitcoin with a pulse, provided there is a little bit of chart history I can work with, a little bit of market structure, and I can mark out a range, then we've got something to play with. We are brought to you by The Daily Edge. Don't forget to go to thedailyedge.com/subscribe. We are a daily newsletter that gets sent direct to your inbox for free, full of actionable intel, insights, and information about the market from the previous day, written by the one and only, the legend himself, Mr. On-Chain Wizard. It's full of his perspective, but not just perspective. It's driven by data, by the data that we use from the tooling at ChainEdge, which you can find information about in the description below. But yeah, don't forget to go to thedailyedge.com/subscribe, where you get that newsletter to your inbox daily. It goes out about 5 to 6 times a week, and it's full of all kinds of information, and it's a companion to the ChainEdge website, to our data tooling that distills the previous day into it quick 5-minute read so you can get caught up to speed on what's occurred in the day before and go on with your day so you can make some informed decisions without having to be glued to your screen 24/7 like some of us or most of us on-chain degens tend to be. Again, you can find all links in the description below. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoy what I'm doing here. The only way this channel grows is by the support of you guys, and the more it grows, the better it will become, the more lives that we can help impact by passing along this knowledge that I've learned over the years of how to look at a chart and mark that bitch up. Okay, I think we've gotten through all of that stuff, and we'll take a look at the Chain Edge website a little bit later. But yeah, let's dive into it. Let's take a look at the majors, as we tend to do at the beginning of each stream. I know you guys aren't here for the majors, but we do like to take a quick peek just to get an idea of what the market is feeling like. So here we go. A look at the majors now. I mean, we had a bit of a sell-off over the last couple of days, but we've come into this level that I marked out, and I actually posted this chart of the BTC chart in the AFM. Oh, hold on one second. I need to make sure that you guys can see full screen. Here we go. There we go. I dropped this chart in the AFM TG the other day, outlining this level here within this demand. And wouldn't you know it, it came in and swept that level. Now we've gotten quite a nice reaction off of it. We're coming back up into an area of overhead supply. Like this was, we did have a daily market structure shift on BTC where we closed below, and now we're retesting that supply. We've retested it once. We're coming back up into it. We had a really nice reaction off this sweep within this daily demand area, and we're just back up into some supply. So, you know, we're heading into the weekend, typically lower volumes, lower activity. So we shall see if we get any more sell-off, or if we just sort of hold around here. Holding around here would be great, because then our on-chain shitcoins would have some nice freedom to roam. BTC is looking good. I mean, we're still just in this overall, this multi-month long chop channel. It looks like we're trying to be at the higher end of the channel and the higher end of the range. So we'll see what happens, but looking just fine, if you ask me. ETH still lagging. I mean, this is pretty much, I mean, we could look at the ETH BTC, but it would be pretty much telling you that overall we've been downtrending. It's lagging BTC for sure, but it's also come into an area of demand and holding just fine. I don't mark these up too often. I just use them as guides. I'm not trading majors. I just hold spot bags of denominators like ETH and SOL so that I can trade in and out of. And you guys know that we like to use our on-chain shitcoins, our memes and whatever, as levered plays on ETH and SOL. So rather than trading perps and putting the leverage on, we just pile on the leverage and spot shitcoins. Beauty of that is you're still holding the coin. You're not going to get liquidated, even if it goes to zero. But hopefully we can pick the coins that don't go to zero by running some thorough analysis on them, these streams and in the AFM TG group. And a quick reminder that if you're not a member of the Astrology for Men or AFM TG group, the link is in the description below. I encourage you to join. It's an open forum where we have lots of discussion, where I'm there quite frequently relaying my knowledge and helping people understand charts and how to learn to chart them themselves. And actually, a lot of positive things have occurred in the last several weeks, where there's been a real core community of guys that I've noticed showing up daily, putting in the work, asking questions, trying, failing, trying, and learning. You know, that's a part of the process. If you don't ask questions, you're not gonna grasp really the meaning behind the concepts. Like, yes, I can draw things up on a chart for you guys. Let me get out of this, out of the majors, because we're not here for that. Yes, I can draw a chart up for you guys, but unless you know why it is that I'm outlining things the way that I am, it's a lot harder to do it yourself. And ultimately, my dream and my vision and my goal for this this YouTube series, as well as the chat group, is to be able to relay that information so that you can learn the skills on your own and take them with you for the rest of your life. You know, these are it's an evergreen this knowledge is. It's an evergreen situation because these are repeatable skills, or these are learnable skills based off of a repeatable process that once you recognize the patterns are there with you for the remainder of your life. So long as you have an internet connection and the market to chart and a market to trade, you can go off and make money because these concepts are not specific to crypto. They're not specific to on-chain. The concepts are translatable to any financial instrument that you might find yourself trading. So please do join us in the AFMTG group. We're very friendly. We don't bite. A lot of the guys are in there that have been learning quite a bit are very helpful with their time, and we truly appreciate that. We brought on a bunch of guys as admins over the last week, and we've started up a section called the War Room, which is where it's an active trading room where we're just hunting and trading throughout the day. It's a closed channel, meaning that for the majority of members, it's read only. You can't write in there, but you can follow along with what you're doing. And over time, as we notice people being more and more active and grasping the concepts, that space will open up to more people. But for now, just try and follow along as best as you can. Show up, ask questions. Like the guys that I brought on as admins, they've been showing up every day and asking questions and learning. And it shows because they are able now to draw things up on the chart without having to ask me as many questions. Yes, I'm still providing guidance and input on what it is that they're doing and trying to correct any things that I notice that are maybe a little bit off. But again, there's a million different ways to chart a chart. And if there's techniques that work to the individual, that's great. And it works for you. This is just a system that I've developed and how I like to trade. And it works for me. But there's many ways to look at a chart. Okay. And actually a great example of that was just yesterday. And we'll look at the chart in this stream. But just yesterday, there was what was the ticker? Miharu. When I woke up, I had noticed the guys had been planning entries on this chart. And a bunch of things lined up, and they managed to nail the pico bottom entries on this coin that went on to run, I don't know, like 400% or something from their entry in real time. And all I did was provide little bits of input there, here and there, and encourage them to maybe not fumble the trade by exiting too early. And they ended up having a fantastic trade that they learned just from showing up into the group and asking questions and learning. So if that is something that you're interested in, if you're serious about learning how to chart, then come join us and ask questions and feel comfortable making mistakes, because over time, the more you practice, the better you become. This is a skill that requires repetition and practice. And the more time you spend looking at charts, the better you become at it, because you recognize the patterns. And there's a couple of very core things that we look for every time. And you guys that have been showing up to these streams frequently and into the chat will remember or know these things that I bring up every time. It's a top-down approach. You go highest time frame, you figure out your bias. Are you bullish or bearish bias based off the highest time frame of the chart? You outline your primary structural range by defining the market structure. You mark out your range, and then you move to low time frames to try and plot your entries. And these are things that we'll go over through the stream as we look at the different charts. Speaking of which, why don't we get to that now? Let me pull up the screen. And here's our watch list for today. Got 18 coins on it. Requests were a little bit lighter today, but I imagine that's because there's so much craziness going on. It's hard to stay on top of what chart and where. But we'll get through each and every one of these and provide my analysis, and hopefully we can try and find some beautiful entries on some of these. As you guys know, I like to sort by volume. Let me start top down. And what do we have? I can see at the top here, we have this coin called GOAT. I don't know if the story is that it was launched by AI, but it has something to do with this AI technology something, that maybe someone can type in the chat whether the coin itself was deployed by AI or just created by AI. I can't 100% remember, but it's got a fun story, and the AI has essentially been communicating on Twitter about this coin. So let's take a look. It was one that popped up last night, and when it launched, we were taking a look at it in the chat. It was pretty choppy early on, but as you can see, it's gone on to hit a high of almost 17 million. And we were looking at it somewhere down over here in the 3 to 4 million range. Actually, when this one first launched in a group chat that I'm in, someone dropped the ticker around 200K. I was unfortunately in the midst of family dinner time. I got family rugged on that one, and I'm quickly realizing that now that the market is a little bit more bullish, the key times to be available, and family dinner time does not seem to be the time to be having dinner. So I'm going to have to make some adjustments, and this is what we do. If we want to be maximally available to capitalize on as many opportunities as possible when the market is hot, you just need to align things. I know that's not possible for everyone. People have day jobs and IRL things that they need to tend with, family, friends, etc. But if you are taking this seriously and you do want to be an active participant, that this is part of your job, like if crypto and shitcoining is your job, you need to align yourself to be available for the most amount of opportunity. And lately I've found that to be sort of 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern time. So that's actually aligns with the Asian session is when that is. And then also really, really, really early in the morning from like 5 a.m. It also gets busy. There's a couple other times throughout the day, like right now, today being a Friday, like these hours are usually pretty busy. And I do notice that in some of the chats, they're pretty active. But this is also a perfect time to stream. So let's start taking a look. Let's remove everything that we've got on here. Let's go to the higher time frames to see what we've got. This is H4. It's still not much to go off of. I do see a little bit of demand here, but I'm not going to mark that out yet. Let's go to H1. Start marking out some key levels. I see this swing high here. I see this swing high here. Well, let's just mark out this demand here first, because this is H1 demand. H1 being hourly demand. Guys that have been here with me long enough know that I like to use that old trader speak. It's just how the guys that I learned from, the lingo that they use, and it's stuck with me. So that's how I see it. We've got a few key swing points I notice right off the bat. But this is your H1 demand. Let's mark out. Here's bottom of your H1 range. We don't know where the top is yet because, this candle could go on to close up here, but let's just assume for now this is the H1 swing high. And here is where the higher high break was. Why is this your range? Why is this your primary market structure range? Well, because it made a higher high when it closed above this swing high level, creating this new range. And that's something I'm going to deep dive into a little bit further today, because one thing that I've noticed that has been a little bit of not a struggle, but a little bit more difficult for people to grasp is market structure defining ranges and how to determine those and how to outline those. And, when I was deep into my learning arc, that was also a difficult part for me. Like that was the last piece of the puzzle that when that came together, it really unlocked everything. And before that, until I could just look at a chart and visualize what that structure defining range was and why it was a structure defining range and what differentiated it from others, from one swing point to another, like what was the reasoning, until I unlocked that, things were still a little bit muddy to me because I was making decisions that I thought were correct, but it turns out they weren't because it wasn't in line with the structure. And that's particular to this system that I use. Yes, there's other systems and ways that other people mark out ranges and swing levels and stuff like that. But this particular system that I use, which is a merger of many, not many, but it's a merger of about 4 or 5 different systems, but about 75% of that is based off of Trader Main, who's based off of ICT concepts. And I've mentioned this many times, that Trader Main is the GOAT. And when I found his analysis and his way of marking a chart, it really unlocked it was like night and day. The very first unlock for me was visualizing a chart in horizontals and not diagonals and squiggles and stuff like that. I was noticing these horizontals. As you can see, I like to mark out these horizontal levels and not vertical diagonal levels. That was the first major unlock for me. And shout out to Big Cheds, another OG from Crypto Twitter. When I discovered his analysis and started following along what he was doing, unlocking the horizontals was piece 1. And then the next major, like that was a massive unlock, seeing the chart in horizontals. But then the next piece of that was discovering Trader Man and the way he trades and how he views the chart. And that's about 75% of how I view a chart in the system that I use. So a big shout out to Mr. Trader Main. I would highly recommend that if any of you are looking, especially on the perp side of things, and sex pairs and stuff like that, I would go follow along with what he's doing. He does live streams and lots of videos, and real inspiration to me once I learned the system and after I got comfortable enough in it. And that's how I ended up here now today doing these streams, because I got to a level where I was confident enough with my analysis, and it was based in sound principles, a system based off probabilities. Okay, enough of me rambling on. So, as I was saying, guys are still struggling with understanding the market structure defining range. It's little tweaks here and there. It's not that it's not being understood. It's just sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to figure out why one swing level over another. On this, it's pretty clear. But what you have is a swing low to a swing high, creating a higher high above the previous swing high, making a new range and the market structure. This is bullish, stair-stepping continuation, bullish pattern. You're getting swing high, swing low, higher low, higher high. So now what we're doing is we're looking for the higher low. And probability-wise, and your best risk reward is going to be somewhere in this demand down here. Now, I don't know yet if it's going to come all the way down there, but this is what I would monitor. What we can do is we can start moving to lower time frames to see if there's any indication of a higher low. And so far, not really. Like on M15, your demand is all the way down here, and you're in the same exact range and market structure as H1. So there's not much we can go off there. You can go to M5, but it starts to get a little bit more muddy. Okay, so M5, you can see we've started to have we had some sweeps. And guys that have been joining along, guys and gals, we had our first lady viewer last week, and I don't mean to highlight that too much, but it was just a change of pace because we have never had a lady in our audience yet for the live streams, and we do encourage men and women, anyone really that wants to learn how to chart, to come and watch the streams and learn with us, because these concepts apply to anyone. And the more women in the trading industry, I think the better, because there's no reason why this should be a male-dominated industry or a male-dominated what's the word that I'm looking for? Dominated career path is trading. Trading is anyone. The beauty of trading and with being online, and especially on chain, is that anyone, anywhere, at any time of day can be trading. So you guys know that I'm big into sweeps lately. I've been using them a lot more as triggers. And we did have an M5 sweep, but that ended up failing. But there was a very short-term trade there, as you can see. It swept that level, but now it made a lower low here on M5. It's actually not the market structure defining. It didn't change market structure on M5. M5 structure is still bullish, but it's starting to make some stair-stepping down. And what do I always say? You can have your primary range, but then you're going to have your counter trend going the opposite way in between the primary range so that I can find its higher low. So far, not much to really go off yet. Starting to get a little bit lower, so maybe we're going to get another M5. Maybe it ends up somewhere here. Where's my tool? Why does this tool keep changing on me? 1 second, please. 1 second, please. I don't use the highlighter. I do use the circle, but I like to have the path and the circle. There we go. Tuck that back away. So maybe you get something that starts to look like this, and you get something into there, and maybe you get a sweep before starting to go up. Now this is, bummer. Okay. That's a misrepresentation because I think afterwards it goes up. Let's try that one more time. So maybe you get something that looks like this. And it comes down into the M5 demand area. Maybe it sweeps the level over here. A little bounce, and maybe it re-sweeps itself here before going up and something like that. Now, this isn't going to be an exact science. It's just something that we potentially be looking for. Is if this M5 continues to go lower, as you can see, it's starting to get a little bit more sell-off there. I would think it's seeking this demand area, this H1 demand area. And maybe it might look something like that. Comes down into there before making a higher high. But it needs to make the higher low first, and we just don't know where that is yet. So that's something I'd look out for. Is just to see where this goes. And then what you're doing, monitoring the higher time frame, H1 being the highest time frame with structure, you're monitoring the lower time frames for an entry trigger. And quite often that can be those sweeps, as I talked about, although this was so near the top that ideally this is not where you want to be looking for a trade. You want to be looking for somewhere down in here. You want to be looking in the bottom third of the range, which is called an optimal trade entry zone into the demand, ideally. So that's what I'd look out for. But for now, very bullish looking chart, bullish stair-stepping continuation. Let's see what happens. Moving along. Power Nap said, oof, should have held this and went to sleep. Where did that go? You know what? Let me get rid of these banners because they're... There we go. Power Nap says, oof, should have held this one and went to sleep. Yeah, we were chatting about this one last night. I think one of my last comments on it was, I do think this one goes up. And there it went. But there was some drama and PvP occurring. There was another coin that launched. And, was this AI thing going to keep tweeting out different tickers, and how was that going to end? But it is, the more I look into it, the more it's sounding bullish. Oh, here, we had a response from that invest trader, said, deployed by AI tech, backed by A16Z co-founder. Yeah, I did see that Andreessen had been tweeting and interacting with it. So there you go. Let's move along. Miharu. So this was that coin that yesterday, some of the lads from the Telegram group, the AFM Telegram group, took the initiative, saw a setup, and took the trade. And what they were looking at was an M15 setup over here. They had, well, let's clear all this off. Let's start first. So what they had, so you can understand how it is that they defined their trade, was you had an M15 range here. Here was the primary range because it was the only time frame with structure at that point. Like your H1 was all the way down here. So looking at that didn't really make sense. M15 was the primary time frame they were basing analysis off of. You had your swing high you had your swing high. So you had your swing low to swing high. That created a higher high. It closed above there, creating a market structure defining range. And they were having patience. They were like, okay, we're into demand down here. But ideally, we get some sort of sweep at the bottom of the range as a trigger to get in this trade. And this is something that I've been teaching lots on these streams as well as in the AFM TG group. And would you know, price came down and it gave a sweep into this level. Now, what is a sweep? Or an SFP, as it's also known, especially on structure defining swing points. You get a sweep or SFP at that level. It shows that buyers are stepping in, not willing to let price go below that level. And you had a bunch of sweeps And that ended up being the pico low entry trigger that a bunch of the guys had got in on. And congratulations to them. I'm really makes me feel a moment of pride, although it's not good to have pride, but it was a proud papa moment seeing the guys take the initiative on this and recognizing the setup. They layered their entries in and around this area after they got that sweep, and they held up into somewhere in here, and they laddered out some exits so that they were riding risk-free, but they ended up having a great trade. And this is why, showing up and asking those questions is great. Like, yes, it's fine if you are just looking for signals. It's not the intention of AFM at all. It's not a signal service by any means. We're more on the teach a man to fish and he can hunt for the rest of his life vibes. But, we do post setups and everything like that. So if you are light on time and you can only check in occasionally, then those are available to you. And I try to post the highest probability setups. I don't just post any and everything into the setups channels in the chat. Yes, in the war room, we post all kinds of setups throughout the day. And if you're only a casual participant, I wouldn't recommend trying to stay on top of what's going on there because it happens very quickly and there's a lot of chatter. And the setups are most likely done by the time you see them. But start showing up into the other parts of the channels. And even if you're light on time, just look in the chain edge, the CE portfolio and high probability setups channel or the live streams charts channels. And you'll see don't post in there too frequently, only when the setups are higher probability and more solid, but there's setups that gets posted into there, and some of that is a companion to this live stream series. Oh, I see Mr. DJ and Musashi saying, powerful rap. GM, buddy. Musashi had put together a nice video edit from our last stream outlining the CB trade that we nailed the pico bottom on, and that's since gone on to do, I think, something like 10x. Good to see you, buddy. Thank you for being here, and I do appreciate that video edit. I will look to your services again in the future. Okay, so Miharu, where are we at now? Because this trade is done, and we don't sit around dwelling on trades that are gone. We look for the next trade. So I think now we can be on H1. Yep, H1's giving you setups. Let's just outline. Okay, well, that's obviously the swing point there. The keys outline some of the key levels that I see. Let's see if there's a few more on M15 that might be important. Well, yeah, this is looking pretty important here. Okay, as you guys know, we like to go highest time frame with structure and work our way backwards. So what do I see here now? Oh, we've got our H1 range. It's a large range. It comes from all the way down here. Swing low. No. Swing high. There's your hourly range. Demand it's a tough one on this one because it's all the way down here. This is one of those instances where we'd probably look to a fair value gap, which I've talked about in the past, when the level of displacement from the swing low to swing high is that large. Oftentimes the fair value gap, which is an area of fair value where price did not trade in the opposite direction within that candle, that it was deemed to be fair value, that people were, okay, this is a good area to buy, and you didn't see sellers stepping in, you get this large area of displacement. That's called a fair value gap, and that will often act as an area of support. Now, it doesn't mean that the actual demand, which is all the way down here, I mean, it's a long way down. You don't really, that'd be a full retracement of that whole move. Okay, so something I'm seeing here is we do have H4 now. So why don't we start there? Because I can't keep telling you guys, we go to the highest time frame in the structure and then not do that. Let's see H12. What do we have? Okay, H12 does have a bit of demand there, but it's not really market defining structure. So here we have, okay, let's start this one more time. Here is H4 demand. Here's your range low. Oh, wrong tool. There's your range low. There's your range high. Here's the swing high that made a higher high. And I closed above, creating the new range. And I just outlined that so that we know it's a quick visual so you know which direction and what your bias is. And your bias is bullish to higher. So you're looking for the higher low. So maybe it comes somewhere down in here. At the moment, I do see this level here, which is an interim or inter-range swing level that price has been interacting with. Looks like we may be trying to close below it. The H4 is still 3 hours away, so it's a little too early to be claiming signal from that. But it's something to watch for. But this is your H4 demand. It's a long way down. We could even say, okay, as I was talking about fair value gaps a moment ago, like there's your H4 fair value gap. If we go down to H1, we can take a look and see what we see. I mean, it's still a large area. It's too early to say, but what you are looking for, especially since we did have this being the previous all-time high level, is something around here perhaps. Like maybe this ends up as a bounce here. It's still too early to tell. We can go down to M15. We do see we have on M15, we have a bearish range on M15, but that's fine. Tell you guys all the time that you can have a counter trend on lower time frames against the primary trend on higher time frame. And what you're looking to do is to find the moment when the lower time frame counter trend realigns with the higher time frame primary trend as your trigger for a higher low to go long or to get in the trade. And there's various ways to do that. At the moment, this is your M15 bearish range, but maybe we get a sweep at this level and that could be a trigger to enter the trade. It's still too early to tell because the sweep has not yet occurred here, but buying near the bottom of this range, if this starts to shape up to be looking more like a bottom, is buying a sweep at that level with aims to get back to here. And if it flips this level back to bullish by getting a close above, well, then your structure is realigned on lower time frames. It's still too early to tell, but that's something I'd watch out for. Just waiting to see, because if this continues to make lower lows, it's not time yet. It still needs to unfold, still needs to play out. And you can see it, this level being fairly important at the moment, this one here. And you got to close below on M15, and now it's showing signs of rejection off it and the previous all-time high level. So that is something to be aware of. That I just don't think it's time yet. But if you do get a sweep here, that could be a trigger to at least try and trade back up to here and decide what you do up here, because until the lower time frame realigns with the higher time frame, you're still trading counter trend within that lower time frame. Higher time frame, yes, you're trading with the trend. Okay, moving along. MSTR 2100, and I believe this was a request yesterday in the chat. Someone had asked me to outline some levels, and I believe the gentleman got into the trade and pulled off something like a 7 or 8x. So congratulations, what a great trade. I think it was somewhere down around here. This is not the analysis that I drew up. This is since then analysis, but at the time I had stuff drawn here, and you got an entry, and here we are now. So let's clear this off. Obviously a very bullish looking chart. Let's go highest time frame to see what we got. Looks to me like H4 made a higher high. Now it didn't close much higher above that level, so it could be some indication of topping, at least in the meantime, as a local top, but it did get the higher high, so not going to discredit that. We do also have this level here. Not saying it's going to come down there, but we like to mark out levels that catch our eye. Also see this H1 level here. As you can see, it's been fairly important. But on H1, we do have a range here. Here's your H1 demand. There's the higher high. Here's your H1 range. So what you're doing now is you're looking for a higher low to form in here. Apologies about those alerts going off. I should make them a little less loud. 1 second. There we go. So what you're looking for is a higher low to form in here on H1. I'm not saying that, this is the trade to go after it's gone up that much, because it's gone up quite a bit since the analysis from yesterday. Yeah, it was over 10x. So I'd expect some cooling, but the market has been hot, so you never know. And there is an H4 demand here. But what you're looking for is a higher low to form somewhere in here on H1. You had some indication of a topping pattern here on M15 when you had a bunch of sweeps this level. And what do we say about a sweep? Is a failure to close above that level or to close below when the sweep is the other way. So it's often an indicator that price wants to trade in the other direction to fill out the range, which is what we're getting. And the bottom of the M15 is actually the same as the bottom of the H1. It's all the way down here. So you're looking in here for a higher low. Maybe we sweep this. But it could happen anywhere in here. And it's a little too early to tell. But though you're just looking for the high time frame fractal to play out on a lower time frame. So you have your high time frame stair stepping, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Well, low time frame, it switches and starts going counter trend. Well, you're looking for that to reverse and to catch that into the next higher high, higher low sequence, or some sort of sweep of a range low on an inter-range or interim level, which could be this. We don't know yet. But I would continue to monitor. I mean, you don't want to be buying into tops and you're really quite near the top if you buy from somewhere near here. I mean, still a 30% move. It's not the greatest on ETH because of fees and whatnot. You want something with a little bit more meat unless you're going in with large size, but you're looking for the higher low to appear somewhere in here. Still too early to say. Okay, Russell. Russell is Brian Armstrong's dog. Brian got married recently, so there's a bunch of tweets and there were some images of him with a dog, and everyone was like, oh my God, what's the dog's name? Brian, what's the dog? What's the dog? What's the dog? So we can bet the farm and all get rich. Well, it turns out there was this dog, Russell, and the chart started showing it. There was a few other coins that launched with different names, and they all turned out to not be the dog's name. But as you can see, it seems as though the market is trying to say that this is it. Now, when it first launched, there was there was some seriously farming fucking devs on it who sold a lot, and it looked like it was a rug. But Jeet devs out, Chad's in, and it's starting to make a move higher. So let's mark out some. I really don't like charts that have this in the beginning because it's so hard to define, because I just don't really count this as part of the chart because this was fake price action, right? None of this was real. This was heavy sniping, speculation, bundling, like any myriad of things involved by the team. And then they dumped the shit out of it. So this is not organic. So it's hard to base your chart off of that, but we will make note of this level because people do see it on the charts. They will be looking at that. I think a level that's important here is what we had here. Since we're going to sort of forget that this occurred. I know that's easy for me to say, and you need context for doing things like that. And why can I just say on this chart, well, maybe we forget that stuff? Well, you just need context. And being in the market actively all day, you hear or see these things occur and understand that this was some market fuckery. So we'll just take that as a level. It was clearly important because you swept it at one point, but now you've got to close above. So what I would be looking for is, here's your demand, but it's not got a swing low there. So this is actually your hourly demand. There's your swing low. Oops. There's your swing low. So at some point, you're going to get a swing high here. Maybe it was that here. Maybe that's the swing high. We don't know yet. But then I'd be looking for a higher low in here. We can go down to lower time frames. I mean, yeah, you're starting to see. Maybe if this M15 closes above this level, then you're going to keep going up, but you're starting to see those sweeps. And my suspicion is we're going to come back down into somewhere into here. Still a little early to tell. Maybe it sweeps this level here. It's a pretty shallow pullback if it was. I'd prefer something deeper. But you just take a look at your chart and start marking out where some of those swing levels, those inter-range interim swing levels were that stand out. Like, don't just pick any little swing. Don't just pick any little swing level and be like, oh, maybe it's this. Like, yes, at one point this acted as a sweep and it went higher. But they need to be fairly obvious. You don't need to get nitpicky. Sometimes we do zoom in really, really, really close to see if a candle closed above or below a range, especially on structure defining moments, because that can be the difference between one trade or another. But just mark out those levels and say, okay, if price gets down into this level, it's an if this, then that scenario. So if price gets down here, if this occurs, then this is the steps I would take, or the triggers that I would look for to enter the trade. And if that fails, then that, and I look for this. So say this ends up as a sweep. Well, then you start looking at these levels. And if it comes down and say it just closes below this, well, then you negate that level. And then you start looking at some of these other levels for potential sweeps. And if it gives you a sweep, you have a trigger. Now it may fail because it's not the bottom of the range, and a lot can happen between then and now in terms of how the candles play out. But at least you're getting an entry based off of a thesis and not just shooting blind and like, oh, maybe it's here, maybe it's here. No, there's a system behind it. Everything that we do is systems based. When you're learning this strategy of trading, I mean, it is legitimately called a trading system. So once you understand your top-down approach for analysis and really drill those home and work through each layer from high time frame bias, structure defining range, bullish or bearish, marking that out, finding your supplier demand zones, and then moving to lower time frames to find your triggers to either catch the very bottom of a counter trend off of various triggers like sweeps, etc., or waiting for the low time frame fractal to realign with the high time frame fractal, which would be putting in a higher high and then looking to buy the higher low in that scenario. And once you understand that and you put into your head, if this, then that, if that, then this, and not just guessing, then it puts a higher probability into your trades. Because what we want to be doing is trading. The optimal trade would be trading with trend with an optimal entry. And the next best trade would be counter trend, but buying as the bottom of that range. Because bottom of the range gives you a much tighter invalidation. Your risk reward is much higher because if it closes below that range, well, okay, we've just lost that range and we've made a new range low and a new lower low. So then you know that your trade is invalidated and you're super close by. I know it can be difficult when you're looking at a chart. Like say price comes down here and you're looking at it and you're going, oh my God, this thing is just going to nuke all the way. Well, there's a subtle shift into your mindset that you need to make. Like, yes, things are up here and everyone's like, oh, I'm FOMOing and I want to buy this. But probability wise is you're getting closer to the top of a range than the bottom. So when you're down here, say to yourself, if I buy here and it fails, I stand to lose the least amount because I can cut early and look to get back in if it re-establishes a bullish structure. But if it closes below or starts to trade below, I mean, you ideally want to wait for a close because it can sweep and get back up in there, as that trade on Miharu, or whatever the hell that dolphin's name is, showed that it was a bunch of sweeps in the bottom of the range. So ideally you're waiting for the close. But if you buy down here, even though everything inside of you is telling you don't fucking buy this coin, it's so bloody, like what are you doing? Your RR, your risk to reward, and your invalidation is so tight, like your risk to reward is super high, but your invalidation is super tight that if you get the close below, you lose nothing. But if you buy here and you end up buying the top and price is coming down, where is your invalidation? Well, your invalidation is still all the way down here. So you could be in here going, I'm underwater, and then eventually you're here and you're like 70% down and you're like, fuck it, I'm going to capitulate. You sell. Next thing you know, it sweeps that level and then goes on to go up, right? So when you're looking at something like this, you should feel bearish. And when you're looking at something down here, you should feel bullish. It's a difficult thing to do psychologically, but just realize what a chart is a chart is raw human emotion displayed in chart form. It's the euphoria and the fear. And you want to be buying the fear and selling the euphoria and not the other way around, because that's how you game the market. That's how you play with the market, selling to other people that are feeling FOMO in these moments and selling fear in these moments. You want to be the opposite of them. And then you have a system to build upon, right? Like if you're, but like, even if you buy down here and it fails, you go, okay, so I lost maybe 5%. But if you're up here, you buy, and then price comes down here and you're 70% underwater, and then you decide to sell. Well, first of all, you're 70% underwater. So you've lost 70% of your bankroll on that trade, not your entire bankroll. I hope you're not, full clipping your entire portfolio into one trade, YOLO trading, but you've lost 70% of that position. And the next thing you know, it starts to go in the direction that you had thought it would based off of your primary analysis. So and it's something that I struggle with too. It's literally the hardest part of trading is the psychological component. And that's why we work a little bit at it every day, is to train yourself that you feel bullish here and you feel bearish here. Anytime you see something coming up into a range high, feel bearish. And look at how you're getting these sweeps and it's failing to close above. Now, it may close above on M15. We don't know yet. But the meat of this move has minimal upside before you're going to get some sort of higher low. Just realize that, right? So these are things I'd look out for. That's why we look to these interim levels as potential triggers, because you are looking for the higher low. Your high time frame bias is bullish, meaning you're looking for it to continue going up. You just don't want to be buying into an area where you're going to capitulate only for that to be the higher low before it goes on, right? You want to be putting the highest probability and highest chance of success on your side. Okay, moving along. Cheese ball, CB. This was the one we nailed in the last stream. And there was, if we go back and review a large majority of the coins that were analyzed last stream, and I post them in the chat whenever I remember to go back and look at them, but a large majority of them go on to play out the way as we've outlined. So it is good to keep tabs of these things. Like, this is a system that does have a fairly high hit rate, especially if you're defining your market structure and your ranges properly and you're waiting for the optimal sort of entry. Getting the optimal entry is one of the harder parts, and that's why we go to low time frames. But on that stream, we were over here. On that stream, we were here. Price was trading up here, actually. This was what had occurred. And this level was marked out, and I drew out the demand here, and it came right into that level. That's where we were last stream, and since you can see, it's gone on to do some fun things. But let's clear everything off. Let's start fresh. Let's go to the highest time frame of structure and see what we got. So H4 we've got. Let's start with daily. Let's see. Okay. Important, because daily, the higher the time frame, the higher the signal, as I've pointed out on many occasions. So a couple things I see on daily here. Daily demand, right there. Key swing level. Key swing level. Where price made the higher high, creating a new range. Bottom of your daily range, it's a bit of a tricky one because the swing low isn't attached to isn't like the demand area that extends below the bottom of the swing low. So there's your swing low level on daily. And so what I would even say is, okay, here's your demand. And why do I adjust that? Well, because if you get a daily close below this, then even if there's demand down there, you've lost the daily trend and your range is flipped to bearish. Your bias is flipped to bearish. So there's the bottom of your range. This is your daily range. It's quite a large range. And it's had a large move up, and now it's just sort of consolidating that move. Now, I'm going to be able to see this. There we go. This is H12. H12 is also the same swing low. And the demand's a little bit tighter, but I do notice that we have this H12 fair value gap right here, which aligns with the previous all-time high level. So that's, layers of confluence, which is something that I teach. You want to be layering different pieces of your analysis toolbox. It's all based around the same principles and concepts of supply and demand and structure, but as we talked about, those fair value gaps, which do appear from time to time, happens to align with the previous all-time high level. So that's, a significant area that I would expect buyers to step in. H4, still a bullish range, no shift in structure whatsoever, just consolidating after that. H4 demand is down here, so we can mark out that H4 swing low, because maybe it comes down into here, into that daily demand before finding the higher low. Yet to be seen. You can see that these sweeps, it's closed below, like maybe it wants to check this one here as a sweep into that fair value gap on H12. Like maybe this is your trade setting up. It's still a little early and you don't have the trigger yet, but maybe, given that you have a daily range, daily demand, previous all-time high level, an H12 fair value gap, and this H4 swing low all lining up right here. Like, look at this area right here. Look at this area. No, that's massive. Look at this area right here. We have daily demand, H12 fair value gap, previous all-time high, and an H4 swing and H4 intra-range swing level all lining up right here. It's a lot of confluence, and I would suspect that people monitoring this trade on multiple timeframes are seeing these different triggers. Like, that's what you're doing, and this is why multi-timeframe analysis is important. Ideally, just a 2 timeframe, like a high timeframe and a low timeframe. You don't want to overburden yourself with too many timeframes and giving yourself contradictory signals. But the 2 timeframe analysis, now, given that's daily, H4 is pretty good, but we could go to H1. I think M15 is going to start to get too noisy. Even H1 is still bullish. So say you get a sweep at that H1 level there. There's your H1 swing low. But it's all in this same area. So I would be looking for some sort of trigger in here. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get it, because what could happen is you get an H1 higher high above there, and then that changes the analysis, because all of a sudden you're getting an H1 bullish structure. Yes, it's been a lot of chop and noise through here. This is why you want to go higher time frame first, so that you're not missing the forest for the trees, right? Like, if you're too hyper focused on low time frame, you're going to get chopped up, especially as charts get a higher time frame structure. But I think, let's move this over a little bit to give it a little bit of room to breathe. Something in here is probably what you're looking for, but you're going to want to monitor lower time frames for triggers once you get there, because I can't tell you right now what that trigger is going to look like. You have to let it unfold, and then you start to see what the trigger is. But there is that H4 interim swing level right there, aligning with all of this. That has me very interested. This is one to monitor. Like, just keep this chart up and keep watching it, because you don't want to move away and look at other charts or other things, do other things, and then come back in a few hours and find that it's come here and now it's up here. So this is one to stay on top of, especially since it's been quite bullish. And the memes are fucking hilarious, right? Like, for a while, and even still, in all the group chats. Like this, it's the sticker pack for this is one of the most used because it's hilarious and cute. Good old cheese ball. I mean, even when my wife was putting together the banner for today's stream and I sent her the images to incorporate, she looked at it, she goes, "What is this cat? I love this cat." So like, it tells you all you need to know right there, right? Like, got wife approval, girlfriend approval. It's being spammed all over group chats. I'm pretty sure it's still on the attention dash, which we can take a look at. By the way, this is ChainEdge. This is our analytics platform, where we monitor real-time flows of the top 0.01% of DEX traders by P&L. You can go to the attention dash, which monitors various things such as mentions on Twitter or X, mentions in Telegram channels, as well as volumes of coins. So let's go to Sol. Let's take a look. And there's CB. It's fallen a little bit. It's trending downwards a little bit in terms of its daily attention, but it's still high. What's highest is GOAT, which we did analyze, and Miharu, 2 coins that we looked at, and some of these others we'll look at as well, if they were requested. I'm not sure. It's like a bunch of these were not, but I think Fin was requested, perhaps. Yeah, I'm seeing a couple people in the chat actually requesting Fin. Yeah, there's a bunch of people actually showing up in the chat requesting Fin that I can see. Hello, everyone from the Fin community. Fin cult in the house. Fin, chart Fin next. Okay, I'll get to Fin next. Let me finish doing what I'm doing right now, and then we can pop back. Oh, here's a good question. Boss, am I missing a lot if I don't trade on Sol? I trade EVM shitter solely. Yes, you are. I'm just going to be blunt because the activity on Solana is immense. Now, ETH has been hot lately, and there's lots to do trading there. And I don't advise spreading your attention across too many chains. I think there's more than enough trades occurring between ETH and Solana. Now, that's all you need. Yes, a million other chains will pop up, and some people will tell you, oh, bridge to Sui, bridge to Ton, bridge to Tron, like do all this, do that, and whatever. When it's quieter, sure, more opportunity to do that. But you want to specialize somewhere. You don't want to be spreading yourself too thin. And historically, I've been an ETH specialist. But I do and have recognized the amount of activity that occurs on Solana. So I also trade on Solana. And I've been doing that since earlier in the year, since, maybe, I mean, I took my first trades on Solana last December, which sort of coincided with the top of that mini bull run on Solana. Pretty funny. I'm historically excellent at picking. When I bridge, it's usually top somewhere, so look out. I mean, I no longer bridge between ETH and Solana. I just have capital on both. So I wouldn't say that I'm moving late to either of those at this point in time. But if you see me bridging to a new chain, pack your bags and sell, because it's probably approaching a local top. I joke, but yeah, I don't really bridge anywhere else anymore. Unless, if Base is going to have a season, if ETH Gwei keeps ticking back up, perhaps. But the moment, still just ETH and Sol. So yes, I would say you are missing by not trading on Sol. It's a very different trading environment. Charts do not behave the same. They have their own cadence and unique things that you need to look out for, which was something that took me a little bit of time to realize, that it requires a little bit of nuance, and that Sol charts like to go all the way to the bottom of the range, a little less so than ETH charts. There's just a different trading behavior. And also you have to realize on Sol, you might get an 80-90% drawdown before going back to all-time highs. It's just a different environment and something you need to be aware of. So yeah, where was I? We were talking about CB, which we can see is here on the attention dash, in which this is a wonderful dashboard that if you're struggling to focus your efforts, like we all do when it gets a little overwhelming and busy, utilizing the attention dash on ChainEdge to narrow your vision onto certain tokens is a godsend, because it's telling you where the attention of the market is in that moment for both ETH and Sol or combined. Wonderful tool. So yeah, I think on CB, there's something you're looking for there. Okay, so since there's been so many requests in the chat, and I do like to listen to our audience members, especially when we've got a bunch of new people in the audience that have never been to one of our streams. They're asking for Finn. So let's do a quick diversion. Just remind me, or I will remind myself, that we were at CB and we still have a long way to go, and we're already an hour in. So I got to pick it up a little bit. Oh, look at that. You know what? Finn is on here. So we'll just jump to it. It was already on the list. There you go. Let's take a look. We were already going to get here. So we've had some analysis on it from before. Let's start fresh. For all the Finn boys, that sounds weird. The Finn boys. But Hermit says Finn. And Dolphin J says, hello, sir. Finn is here. LOL. So let's take a look at Finn. It was already on my list. Let's go as high time frame as we can get. Okay, so there's not really much on H4 that we can go off yet. I do see a swing low here, so let's mark. Is it a swing low? No, it's not actually a swing low. Okay, well, I see this is important. Let's go to H1, or the hourly, to mark out those important levels that I like to do. There's one right there. We can see we've got our H1 demand right in there. Here's the bottom of your H1 range. Here's the top of your H1 range. And here is where you got the higher high break. The market structure defining moment. Well, it was already in bullish structure, but it was bullish continuation. So we had new structure with your H1 range. So what you're looking for is the higher low to form somewhere in here. Now it is listing downwards, like you can see that it's making shallower bounces, but you're in here looking for the higher low. Sometimes it just takes a little while for that to happen. And it may be that it wants to get all the way to the bottom of the range. We don't know yet. You can see we did have a sweep here, which ended up being a good trigger to go long, but that since is topped. So what are we looking for here? Well, we've got this sort of interim, or this inter-range, mini range that's formed here. So I think a couple things you'd look for, or not a couple, there's two things that I would look for. Either you get an H1 close above here, and then you look to buy a higher low somewhere in here for a bullish stair-stepping pattern. Inter-range, keeping in mind that you're within the primary range, so you're looking for that to realign, because off of this, yes, we made a lower low on the inter-range play, but that's irrespective. Like that, the primary thing is the primary range. So either you get a close above here and then you're looking for a higher low here to keep stair-stepping, or you get a sweep at this level. Now, I'm not discounting that it may want to come all the way down to the bottom of the range and do some sort of sweep or interaction down there, but for now, I mean, it's holding strong. No reason to panic. You're just looking for when that higher low is going to be, because we don't know yet. And it's been a lot of chop. Like, it's been a lot of chop in here. I know the community is very, very strong, as we can see by all the comments that showed up in the chat, which is wonderful and beautiful to see. Appreciate you guys showing up. So now we're just waiting for more buying momentum to step in to try and send this higher. But it's still bullish. How's volume? Daily volume. It's dropping a little bit. You kind of want to see this above 1 million. So, you know, maybe rally some of your Finn community members to be like, okay, guys, we need to step up this buy volume to push this back up, because for a lot of people that are monitoring the market, filters will be based around a minimum threshold of volume, and often 1 million, especially in Solana, sometimes 3 million will be that volume filter that they're looking for, so that only coins that hit those filters are showing up onto their lists. So that's something to be aware of. Like, if you guys can boost volumes on this, you'll get a lot more eyes. But again, it's still bullish. You're just looking for that higher low to occur. If we wanted to go lower time frame, M15, we do see that we had a higher high here. And it came into this demand in here. And here's your mini range on M15. But it is putting a sweep in there. So I don't think it's maybe done yet. Still needs a little bit more to play through. Dolphin Joy says, we appreciate you. Well, thank you so much for showing up, Fin community. Great feedback. Well, I just try to provide an unbiased analysis, and the chart is still bullish. So stick with that and try and get some momentum into it, and you guys should be good to go. Okay, had another comment here. Thank you. Yeah, focusing on ETH for me is just right for my attention span, and that's perfectly fine. ETH is a little bit slower, although the last several, week or two, especially after SPX exploded off the back of the Murad theses, ETH volume has gone insane. So it hasn't even been that much slower paced. Just depends on if you're focusing on utilities versus memes. I'm more focused on memes. I just see greater upside, and I find that focusing on utility, I have nothing against utility whatsoever, and I'm not suggesting that that's where your focus is, Mr. In the Mood for Ambiance. I just find the RR on utility is just isn't there right now. I do doubt myself if I can focus on too many things at once, especially at Sol when there are many tokens that you can trade. Yeah, it requires a lot of focus, and also a group of hunters in the trenches keeping eyes on things, because it is a market that requires a lot of information asymmetry. And Sol action can wreak havoc on your mental and emotional psychology, since it can rip or giga dump. It's very true. This is very true, but it's part of the game. Someone asked, how's the attention score? I think attention on Fin is good. Look at that. Hermit has responded for you. 4th on the attention dash. So there's something there. There's an alignment of factors. It's still bullish structure on H1, and it's high on the attention dash. So what you're saying to yourself is, okay, it's just a matter of time before this ticks off. I would continue to monitor attention score, but for now, you're looking good. And we had, I think we peaked at like 25 viewers there for a moment. So that was nice. On the higher end of our, concurrent viewership for the streams. I think our peak at one point was 28 on another stream. So we got pretty close there. Amazing. So thank you, Fin community, for coming in to enjoy. And you're always welcome to show up to every stream. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and you'll know when these live streams go out. I do them. I like to say I want to be doing them 2 to 3 times per week, but it's been pretty much once per week. I'm going to try and get it up to 2 per week, especially since they tend to be like 2 to 3 hours long, which is it's a lot. It drains a lot of energy, which is why I think I've been keeping them on a once per week cadence. But I think if I did them twice per week, I'd be able to cut them down to sub 2 hours. Like maybe like a 90-minute stream twice a week is better than 3 hours once a week. Let me know how you guys feel about that. I feel like you'd probably agree. But I'm also devoting a lot of effort and energy into the AFM group, which in between streams, you'll find me there quite often, many times throughout the day. And if I'm not there personally, we do have, like I said, those admins that have been brought on board that have been really, really great at responding to questions and helping out people in the chat and learning. So actually, just a quick shout out to the admins, to Peon, Mason, Genghis, Tarzan, Munar, Power Naps, and my good buddy Too Tall. A bunch of great lads have been helping quite a bit and eager to learn, and we've been on the hunt together, working out a system so that we can have each other's backs and eyes and ears so that we're not missing trades. Dolphin Joy says, oh, Dolphin J. Have I been pronouncing your name wrong? Does that say Dolphin J? I severely apologize for calling you Dolphin Joy. Thank you for subscribing. We do appreciate that, Mr. Dolphin J. And if I'm still butchering that, I apologize. And I see the rest of the Fin community is busy rating Twitter. Well, these are good things to know because community is a big part. of whether a coin is going to do well or not. Kimberly is back. Hi, Kimberly. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you. Well, we appreciate you showing up again. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, let's get, there's a bunch of comments. Love to see it. Let's move on. So where had we stopped? I had done CB. Okay, we're getting a little movement amongst these as volume is shifting. But I believe GOAT we did, Miharu we did, MicroStrategy 2100 we did, Russell we did, Cheeseball we did. But we have not done Man U. So let's go to Man U. Shout out to my boy UM, who is championing this token, Man U. Good buddy of mine. On one of our last streams, some of the lads rated one of the streams, and he had pointed out that he was like, "Why do you call me Why do you call me I hate when people call me Like, not in a that way, just like jokingly. He was like, "Why you call me That's I was like, "Okay, fuck, my bad, dude. Better get that shit right." So shout out to my boy and the lads from the group chat. Appreciate all of you from our little group of trench warriors. Okay, Man U. Let's start fresh. See what we got. We're on daily. I don't think weekly is important. Nope. Okay, we're on daily. What have we had on daily? Let's mark out our key levels. There's a key level. There's a key level. It's into daily demand. Now, oftentimes you guys will see that I incorporate that wick and sometimes even other candles into how I'm marking out demand. Why am I doing it here right now? Well, because we can see it's already tagged it once. And so that's obviously been an important level. I mean, it's getting good reaction. Like, it's been choppy, yes, for a few days, but right now it's seeing a nice little bounce. Let's mark out our daily range. Swing low, swing high. That's our structure defining range. Here was the swing level when it closed above that created a higher high, thus creating this range. We can start popping down the lower time frames, see what we've got. Like I said, there's been some chop going on. It's been quite a bullish coin, though. We can see we've had some sweeps occurring. Okay, I'm just taking a look at this now to see how would I analyze it in this moment, because, well, here's a pretty easy one that we see right here. Here was your H4 swing low. Look how important that level's been. All right, this was the swing low that created, 1 second. Let's zoom in here. What do we have here? Okay, so at one point, H4 did break bearish. This is a difficult one to catch because of just the placement of it and it not looking like a structural range, but it in fact was an H4 level. It's tough because I can. Sorry, I'm just working this out of my mind because there's a lot going on here, and I do like to be precise. So H4 closed above there. That was the swing low into that swing high. So actually, this was it here. And you can see, okay, and then immediately you see why that level was important because you had an H4 close below, and then it started interacting with that. But it's just been a lot of chop in the higher time frame range that is bullish. So, you don't want to get lost analyzing low time frame and losing the sight of the higher time frame structure. But you can see how this particular swing level had been important. It interacted with it while tagging daily demand a few times and has given reactions. Well, now you're sort of looking to see, is it going to go up from here again? It didn't come in and tag the demand this time. But I do see this is the current H4 range it's in, but it's attempting to close above. It's 2 hours and change before that close happens. So I would watch this, because if this ends up as a sweep and closes back in here, then probability that comes down here is a lot higher. If this closes above, well, then you look for a higher low somewhere in here to go back to top of the range and hopefully to new all-time highs. In the meantime, though, it is a lot of chop going on through here. Chart is still very much bullish. Like we said, daily. You're just looking for a catalyst to get it back up above to new highs. And until that resolves, it's just a lot of chop. But like I said, you could be looking for this to put in a higher high here of this H4 trend. In which case, if this closes above, you'd be looking for something into this demand here. Like say this H4 candle closes above this H4 range high. Well, then you'd look for something into here to send it up. Again, though, 2 hours and change until that close. So a little early to say. And I think anything lower time frame, given how choppy this has been on H4, even H1 is going to be a nightmare to look at, just given how much chop there is. Yeah, like how do you trade that? Because it flips bullish, it flips bearish and then flips back to bullish and then back to like, you don't want to be too low time frame, because then you're just going to chop yourself out. So you just zoom out and remember, daily is bullish and you're just seeking the higher low for it to go higher. Obviously, these tags in demand were the best entries so far. And this H4 is looking fairly strong. But now you just need a little bit of patience. If you're in the trade, I don't think you cut here because it's looking like it wants to go back to the top of the range. If you're looking to get into the trade, well, then you're just looking for something down here, depending on what happens here. Again, if this is just a sweep and closes back within that range, then I would look down here. So it's, again, if this, then that, if that, then this. Not having a pig-headed, definitive idea in your head that this is going to happen, so this is how I'm going to trade it. No, you need to be nimble. And it's if this, then that, if that, then this. So we're just waiting for triggers. Okay, Miharu we did. That was the one. Oh, no, is this the ETH version? Okay, the ETH version of Miharu. Okay, well, it looks like I already have this drawn out. I think someone in the AFM chat asked for this last night and I outlined it. Well, here's your H1 range. And it's still in there respecting it. Now, did this? Yeah, it's close below that. So you're just waiting for the higher low to be in. This is, you missed that bottom potentially, but it's still a good area because you're within demand and your risk is clearly defined. But you're just waiting for it to realign. It's difficult to go off M15 because look at that. Yes, this was probably an MEV wick, but like, are you waiting for that to flip before going long? Well, then, yeah, you still have a lot of meat on that to go back to range highs on H1, but you'd be missing out on a lot of the moves. So you're just, okay, here's something that we had. Okay, as I say, we go to lower time frames within the higher time frame area of interest. When the high time frame setup is unfolding and you're getting down into your area of interest, like this is H1 setup, H1 range, swing low to swing high, structure defining range, into demand, and you're down in here, then you go to lower time frame and you look for your triggers. Well, look at that. You had an M15 sweep. So this very well could be the bottom right here. Because when you're going with that counter trend, even though, yes, M15 is still bullish all the way down here. Did that even sweep that? No, it didn't quite. But there's the bottom of your M15 range. It's very similar to the H1, so you'd still define it off that, but you got an M15 sweep here near the bottom of demand in an area where you're looking to get on board the trade. Like when you get down here, don't give yourself any reason to not take the trade. You want to be looking for the reasons to take the trade. And this could be one right here. As we talk about more and more frequently lately, how important something like a sweep setup is as an entry, or not even how important, how much more I'm utilizing that as a trigger to be able to time the bottom. Like, yeah, this is obviously would be the very best bottom entry, but you don't know that you're ever going to get that. So what you're looking for is on its way there, are there triggers? Like even here, you had an M15 sweep. It gave a bit of a trade from there to there, but it's ETH. You don't really want to be taking shallow moves like that. Like what would you have done with this? A 40% move, not horrible. I mean, it's funny when we say a thing like a 40% move not being horrible. Like if we were talking to equities guys, they'd be like, holy fuck, a 40% move? Where am I going to get that? But in crypto, we're spoiled, and a 40% move really isn't that much, especially on a shitcoin, on a meme. But you're looking for things like that as a trigger, is your interim or inter-range swing level. You had a sweep, so maybe this is it. I'm not saying this is 100% definitively going to hold, but it's giving you a trigger as a reason to enter the trade. Now, maybe it comes back down to that level again and gives you a good entry because it did move away quite a bit from it, but the second candle right after gave you a closer entry. The tough thing about these is, okay, when do I buy? Because you don't want to be trying to catch a falling knife, right? So ideally, you wait for that close. If it was a very bottom of a range, you almost just buy that and you don't wait necessarily for the close because your risk reward is so good that if it does close below, well, then you cut, right? Because you can still get a sweep and then fail. But if you just buy that level and you know where your invalidation is, and you're nimble enough to cut and not look at it and go, oh, I'm just down a little bit, maybe it'll recover. If it closes below, not just a sweep, but a close below. I mean, you want to be ruthless in those moments, right? But here you had a sweep, so you don't necessarily want to buy this while it's attempting the sweep because it could have just closed here. And they're like, okay, well, now I'm going to be coming down here most likely, right? So, but you got a sweep, you got a candle that came close back to it. Maybe it's rounding out to come back close. So maybe that could be your trigger, is to try and buy that. But looking pretty promising. Okay, let's move this along. Labubu. An hour and a half, and how many do we have left? We're about halfway through. Let's pick this up. Let's get these last ones banged out pretty quickly. I'll still go through the analysis and not leave anything behind, but let's just do it a little bit quicker. Let's clear it off and see what we've got. Let's go, what do we have on daily? Okay. Daily demand. Range low. We can't quite yet say that that's the range high, but it's looking fairly likely that as a close that's going to happen, but I don't want to jump the gun there. Let's mark out a couple key swing levels. You can see how this level's been important though, right? You got to close above, close below, and now it's sort of rejecting off that level. But the range is intact. When you got to close above here, you made a higher high on daily. It just may not be time yet for the higher low to be in. We're just seeking that higher low. Let's just say for now, this is the range high because it's looking fairly likely that it's going to daily close like that. It's still, I mean, 6+ hours until a daily close. So it's a little premature to say that. It could just skyrocket from here. We don't know. But again, one of those moments where cross time frame doesn't fully line up. It's just the pains of trading on chain. H4 is still bullish. So this is one of those scenarios where people might look at this and say, well, what is the swing high when I'm trying to define a range? And what is the swing low? Because you can see here, you had a swing low point that created that peak up there. But the move that created this whole thing is down here. Like, yes, this did that, but you didn't have a swing low, a swing high that it did like a sweep or anything of, right? Like, yes, there's those wicks there, but truthfully, the range on H4 is the same as the daily range. So what you're looking for is just something to come into here, into this daily demand. Also happens to be H4 demand. We can see that we have an interim H4 range right here. Oops. Come on. You can see that we have an interim H4 range right here that's formed. And we do want to be a little cognizant of this. It's not a range defining swing low, at least in my eyes, but it is something to be aware of. That there is a bit of supply being built in here, but on the higher time frames, you're still good. But there's your inter-range H4. You're looking for something to come down into demand. Maybe it's a sweep at this level, tagging the daily demand before that happens. But you're kind of in the middle of a range right now. Not the best place to be taking a trade. You don't want to diddle in the middle, as we say, and that is effectively the exact midpoint of that range. Slightly below the midpoint, which is that purple level there, but effectively the midpoint. Yes, it's tagging the pocket. It came really close to tagging the 786 there. I mean, if we broaden this down to the very bottom of the range of the trading history, yeah, I mean, it's tagged the pocket. Maybe you get one more stab into there with a sweep of this H4 level into the pocket, tagging the daily demand. I mean, that would be a great layer of confluence of everything occurring there, but it could still come down to the 786. We don't know yet. It is a Solana coin. It could come all the way down to the bottom of the daily range. Something you need to be aware of when trading Solana is it likes to test extremities on that chain. But there's a bunch of factors here. Like, I don't think anyone would look at that and say that's a bad trade. If you get an H4 sweep into there, maybe pop down to H1 and see what happens. I mean, we can see here, H1 made a higher high. So look, okay. Talk about looking for the low time frame to set up a fractal that aligns with the high time frame. Well, H1 has flipped back to bullish, and it's using this as an area of demand. Why did it flip back to bullish? Well, okay, I take that back. It never flipped bearish. H1 is still bullish because you never got to close above here. So your swing low on H1 is right here. This is why it's important to really look at everything occurring and find your structural levels, because on H1, I know this is a lot of lines that I'm drawing up here, and I'll delete them because it gets a little bit confusing. But on H1, this is your H1 swing low, H1 swing high. This is your H1 range. And everything kind of lines up with right here, right? This is what we look for, and that we should salivate over is layers of confluence that align your low time frame and high time frame up. Daily demand. There's an H4 swing level there. H1 bottom of the range. Golden pocket, which is the fib level. Like something into here would be a great trade. Like a sweep at that level, close above, hold this H1 demand. Like there's a lot going on there. And over time, as you learn to analyze all these points, you'll see these things lining up. Especially when they align with your bias, when they align with the high time frame bias of the chart. You don't want to be looking for any little reason to say, oh, this is lining up and this is lining up and this is lining up. But when it becomes obvious, and it's really like it's a meme, right? What we talked about before is TA in and of itself is a meme. There's no magic reason why these concepts work other than the fact that it's utilizing a set of principles based around structure and supply and demand, and which is really just psychology. And then extrapolating that to what is the broader market looking at? What levels would they be looking at based off of different timeframes of analysis? Well, if I'm looking at H1, I'm looking at that going, well, that's a good level. If I'm looking at H4, I'm looking at that going, that's a good level. If I'm looking at daily, I'm looking at that going at that, that's a good level. If I only use fibs, I'm looking at that going like this area is a good area, right? Like, I don't like to throw too much analysis on, and this to me is that's a lot going on. You guys know I like to keep charts fairly clean, and this is a lot of stuff going on here. But when you're newer on in your journey and you're looking for these things, these are the levels and layers. These are the layers of confluence that you're looking for, and whether you're proficient with fibs and you only use fibs, well then, Say you only use fibs. Well, if how you like to analyze a chart is by fibs, there you go, right? Say you just prefer your primary analysis on higher time frame. There you go. And it's a lot cleaner. Yes, there's some lines here from other time frames that we drew, and I don't like to have that much going on, but there you go, right? So I think if you get something in here, is a great trade. And you can see it's starting to sell into that area on that H1, right? Into that H1 demand area. So something around here would be a really great trigger. Your risk reward is tight. Yes, you're not the bottom of daily range. So you still have risk on that regard. That daily, you could want to come and test the bottom of the range, but you do have a trigger here with clear invalidation that if this starts to fail, well, then you close that and you look for lower. And it's Solana, so getting in and out of trades is really cheap and easy to do. Okay. Pochita. Pochita is the new dog of the bonk owner. This one was on stream of last stream. We looked at Pochita. It had been quite an aggressive amount of sell-off. It has since, after putting in H4 lower lows, put in an H4 higher high when it closed above here. So here's your H4 range. And it's one of those moments where this is like, do you time capitulate? But it's holding this area. It did sweep this inter-range H4 level a few times, like once, twice. And you know that we like sweeps as an indicator that price is not being accepted above the level, so that maybe it wants to trade back down. But when you zoom out on this does look like a lot of accumulation. I suspect that at some point, once that's done, it's going to release. Now, maybe it's trying to do this, right? Like sweep top. Maybe it's trying to sweep this interim level here. It's one of those ones though that just has to. If you're in this trade, you're waiting for it to unfold. And I'm personally in this trade from around here. So I'm just waiting for it to unfold. You want to see it start to make progress up against these levels. I think if this closes as a sweep, it's a really good signal because buyers keep stepping in here. Yes, it keeps pushing up against this level, and sellers, it's at an equilibrium of selling to buying in this really tight range. But at some point, either the sellers give way and buyers overpower them, or the buyers give way and sellers overpower them. So I think monitoring this level right here, 2 hours still close, so still a ways away. But if this closes as a sweep, like the compression that's occurring here is, once it releases one way or the other, it's going to be powerful. And hopefully for my bags, it's a powerful move to the upside, but I'm going to monitor this level with care. Moving on. Rapdog. This one we've been monitoring for a long time now. And a few streams ago, we had an H12 lower low close. And has since put in another lower low close. I think on the last stream, we were somewhere in here. And I believe I said, if you get a sweep of that low, that could be your trigger to go long. And look at what's happened so far. It swept that level, and now it's attempting to get back to the top of this H12 bearish range. It's still in bearish structure. Get rid of this. It's still in bearish structure. So there's a high probability that it may fail here, especially I can see that it's doing that on H12. Long way to go, 6 hours until the H12 close. But if that closes as a sweep, pretty high time frame signal that maybe it's going to come back down here. I had heard some bullish things about it as the coin with potential listings or whatnot. I don't know either here or there, but it is still an H12 bearish range. This trade is already mostly unfolded. I wouldn't be looking to get on board here unless you flip this H12 range high with a higher high close above and it flips H12 back to bullish. Until then, this is like the most risky spot to be buying on here, because probability wise is you're buying a top and it's going to come back down here. So you have to wait. Either really just you got to wait for this H12 close, because if it closes as a sweep, probability is you're coming down here. Like, what happened there? Was that a sweep or was that a close above? Okay, well, you did have another moment of a sweep before. See how it swept that level? And you got some selling, but then it managed to keep going up. It was short-term selling, but it did give you selling. Like, that was a signal, right? And it sold off. Given that we're closer to the top of the bearish range, there's a much higher probability that you're going to get, if this closes a sweep, and especially if this closes a sweep, that you'll get back down to the bottom of the range. But for now, you're just waiting. There's not much to do here. Either you're in from down here, and that would have been a beautiful entry, H12 sweep of the range low. We like those range low sweeps and counter trend moves. Like, sweeps are especially fantastic on counter trends because it's a signal that it wants to trade back to the other end of the range, regardless of if that's a bearish range and you're looking for a range low sweep to go long, or a bullish range and you get a sweep at the top of the range as an indicator to sell on higher time frame. Lower time frame, great for triggers if you're in bullish setups. Like, if your high time frame is bullish, low time frame triggers such as a sweep are great. But if it's your primary range, then a high time frame trigger is more what you want. Hopefully that wasn't confusing, because that was a lot of words there. Okay, moving along. Broom. So this one had been a portfolio alert from ChainEdge. I know some people are bullish on it. I had mentioned a few times, like, you keep making lower lows. I don't love it. It's managed to hold this H4 level as a sweep. Let's delete that. This is an H4 chart. It's managed to hold this level as a sweep. You can see it swept a bunch of times and then moved up off the level. But you can see that sellers just keep stepping in. And it swept that. So if this level, if it closes below this, you need to know what your exit strategy is if you're holding this coin. Because if it closes below there, it's pretty much game over, I think. Because it's just the market's showing you little interest in this coin at the moment. No real buying demand. If it gets a sweep of this on H4, then maybe you're going to, maybe buyers will finally be like, okay, this is the moment, and they're going to push this thing higher. But for now, fail this level, you're not in a good space. We can go higher time frame. I mean, here's your H12 range. This is your H12 range. It's a ginormous range. And it didn't even have enough strength to get even to the midpoint of the range, right? Like, these are things you need to look at. But I think H4 is your signal. If H4 sweeps this, you're okay. If H4 closes below this, so that $4.1 million level, based off of Deck Screener market cap, then you want to get out. Just based off of this type of analysis. Now, you could go and look at the project and say, well, it's got a bunch of fundamentals and I'm bullish long-term on this. So then you need to ask yourself, how are you analyzing this token? This is purely based off of the chart. I don't analyze FA. I'm not an FA specialist. I'm a chart specialist. So that's what I would look for. Winter arc. we had analyzed this one on last stream and it gave a nice play. It has since sold off some. It lost H4. Like this was a level we were closely monitoring and then sold off through. Well, it's flipped H4 back to bullish. It's been sweeping this H4 range high. Now, once, twice, 3 times it's swept that level, but it's finding buyers stepping in still. The H4 range is intact. It's bullish H4. Now you're just waiting for where's the higher low going to be before it pushes higher. And it's, I mean, the fact that it came back and touched this important previous swing level and found some buyers there, which lines up with an area of H4 demand, inter-range H4 demand that was right there, pretty bullish. But you want to see follow through and you want an H4 close above here. Because you don't want to keep seeing it interact with this level and find sellers. But the H4 range, bullish. This was one that in the chat, some people had a little bit of difficulty outlining the structural range. And so maybe what I'll do is I'll highlight why. I can get rid of this now, since that played out. So why did I outline it the way that I did? Well, this at one point was the H4 bearish range high. This was your bearish range, right? Why was that bearish? Well, because it got an H4 close, lower low, and then a lower low. And this was a swing high that created the low, creating the lower low below the previous swing level. So that was your bearish range. Then you got to close above this level, flipping the H4 back to bullish, making this the higher high break in the moment when the range structure was shifted back to bullish. And then I saw some people that were outlining maybe this is the range. It was a little bit of confusion and they were wondering, okay, why is it not this? Well, because this is not the structure defining range. It's always the swing low that creates a swing high, causing a higher high with a close above the previous swing high, making a new range and thus a bullish range. So when that occurred, you had your swing low. Walk through this slowly so everyone gets it. This is your swing low that created a swing high making a higher high above the previous swing high and range high. It broke structure from bearish to bullish. There was the moment it broke that structure, creating a higher high. This is the swing low that did it. This is the swing high. There's your range. Boom. Hopefully that makes it a little bit clearer for anyone wondering. And then here was your demand, H4. And these are things that I'll always review and go over, especially when I see people having a little bit of difficulty understanding the process in that regard, because it is the most integral part of this style of analysis. This system is defining market structure. So if you get that wrong, then you're analyzing at a massive disadvantage, because you may think you've created a new bullish range, or you may think that you've lost a range when in fact you're still trading the primary range. Worth noting those though, right? Like once that happened last time, it sold back down into demand. It's happened here. Are we going to sell back into demand, or is it going to find enough support here to go higher? But the chart is still bullish H4. If it can clear this, then I mean, previous all-time high seems like a no-brainer. There's a swing level there that I'd be aware of, but it's making moves. But your invalidation on H4 is all the way down here, so just be aware of that. Okay, Finn we already did. Let's move on to Klaus. How are we doing? An hour and 53. I think we can get through these last ones and wrap it up around 2 hours. Klaus, ETH coin, based off of, what is that, American Dad? The American Dad talking fish. Let's go high time frame and see what we've got. There's swing high on H12. Here's your H4. Not really much to work off of yet. We can see a swing level here. Worth noting. I think this one, when it like this one looks like it was either heavily sniped or bundled. I don't love those. When the first, like, let's see what the M1 was. M1 just being first minutes, like, yeah, difficult to be interested in that, to be honest. Doesn't mean it can't go up, and it's gone from here to there. But like structurally, what do you do with this? Because you have no structure, right? And yes, it had been making inter-range bullish stair-stepping on M15, but it's since made a few. What happened there? Why did that do that? There we go. It's since made a few M15 lower lows. So here's your current M15 range. I don't love it. Like, it's instantly shot up to 7 million off of either snipers or bundles. I haven't looked into the data on it, so it's not. I don't love a chart like that. I really don't. Doesn't mean it can't go up from here. Like, I have no clue about that other than just analyzing what the chart's telling me right now. And realistically, I think H4, your best bet would be something down here, especially given M15 is rolled over like that. Like, if this is heavily bundled or sniped, at what point does the team or whoever's holding those tokens capitulate? Especially with something like that. But say you get a sweep of this M15 range low, there could be your trigger to go long, or if you get a higher high close above here. The moment, though, you're literally in the middle of this bearish M15 range. And even just looking at this chart, like, it's not very appealing. Like, I don't like charts that look like this, where it's very non-uniform. It's just, what's the volume even like? I mean, it's 862K volume on an ETH coin. It's not bad. But I'll be honest, I don't love it. It's not me telling you one way or another to or not to trade this coin. It's just personally, I don't love it. So do with that information what you will, because this could be 20 mil. Who knows? Like, you have to look into, like, who's pushing this coin. What are the KOLs involved like? Because it looks very much like a KOL coin, looking at how marketed this is. I also don't love memes that are hyper marketed like this. I like more organic memes. And this just feels like, it kind of feels like a base meme where they overpackage them, right? This is what this feels like. I mean, ETH memes, we know, are like fall into usually a certain set of criteria, which is usually things like an Elon meme or a political meme, or the OG versions of schizo memes, like your SPXs or your Joes and stuff like that. Like those OG memes that have really taken off with all the Murad attention. What other type of memes do well on ETH? I mean, it's essentially those are your baskets, right? And then on Solana, they're the more topical, news driven or memes of the day driven attention focus, and they're usually a lot more funny or topical. And then we have these sort of hyper packaged memes from, like, whispers of previous cycles, right? Also very reminiscent of a lot of the base memes, which just look overly packaged, right? I know, I'm not an FA guy, although I do spend almost all my time trading memes. So you start to pick up these things over time. And sweep of this maybe is your trigger to go long. Close above here, maybe your trigger to go long with a higher low somewhere in here. But in the meantime, what do you do with this? You're in the middle of this range. You're dead in the middle of that H4. Like, even though that's not a structural defining range, it is the swing point you've got to work with. That's what I'd say about that. Okay, moving along. Switch lists. There we go. XMW had also been a portfolio alert. Okay, this was analysis that I did probably last stream. Nothing's changed. Daily bullish range, daily bullish stair-stepping pattern with the higher high close above there. There's your daily range. Let's broaden that out a little bit. It's come down into demand. Now it's found buyers down here. Now you just want to see follow through. I'm just trying to take a look to see if there had been any. Okay, there was a trigger to go along right there. Oh, it was tough because it closed below, right? You had an H4 close below that, so it wasn't actually a sweep. But it seems to have provided a level of support that it wanted, right? And now H4 is swept because H4 at one point switched bearish. Well, now it's switched back to bullish, right? When you got, yeah, right here. Oh, come on. Come on. There you go. So when you got that close there, maybe you're looking into this H4 demand in here. Maybe you're looking for something in here. But if you're in this coin, no reason to be concerned as of yet. This was typical, like just profit taking, you can see. But now it's looking for that higher low, and maybe it's finding that because it's flipped H4 back to bullish when it closed above here. Let's outline it the way that I usually do so you can see where that is. There you go. There's your H4 bullish range. So maybe you get a higher low in there. Sigma on ETH, interesting. I mean, the Sigma on Solana has been doing really well. There's been a lot of Solana memes that have been pumping on ETH recently, which is kind of interesting to see. All that cross-chain PvP vamping, as we call it. Okay, we're at that 2-hour mark, so we're going to start wrapping it up soon. Viewers have started to dwindle. We're down to 12 now, but I do appreciate each and every one of you that are still here, riding it out with me as we go through each of these coins. So, H4, which is probably the highest time frame we've got really here. Let's just mark that. H4 demand right here. Here's your H4 bottom of your range. H4 top of your range. Here is the moment that you got the new higher high, and thus the range was defined. With the close above, swept up into there, and you can see how it rejected off that level right away. So we're just kind of waiting right now. I mean, you really want to kind of see it come down and tag this demand again because it's been a lot of chop. Maybe it's a sweep into here. It's already swept this level before, so who knows what happens there. You want to be buying somewhere down in here. If you're in the coin, you want to see it start to get closes above to say, okay, it's doing that bullish stair stepping, even though it's inter-range, and a lot can happen. It can get up here and then come back down again. Nothing to say that that can't happen until you get a close higher high above. That's the inter-range play that you're looking at. So I'd be monitoring for different areas of sweeps. It's still very bullish. I wonder how dependent this is on the Solana stigma doing well, which I believe it hit something like 60 million or 50 million or 80 million, something quite beautiful to see. So like obviously that is the winner, and I wouldn't suggest playing this over the Solana one other than the fact if there's a setup that occurs. Yes, the structure is bullish on H4. And maybe you're thinking, okay, there's some sort of catch-up trade to the Solana one. Your best RR is to get an entry down here. And when, if it comes down into the demand, just switch the lower time frames like H1, M15 to look for those triggers that we look for. Not much to do here, though. Motion, another Solana meme. Wow. Devs are super creative, aren't they? Just kidding. Mark out the key levels daily. H12. Okay. There's not really much to do yet on it. Like, this is all inter-range stuff, right, that we're outlining here. Yeah, I don't love that the entire range was contained in that, but H4 you did get a higher high. So that's something that's got going for it. Let's mark out the H4 range. Where would demand be on this? Okay. Unfortunate thing is demand's all the way down here. On H4, here's your range low. Here's your range high. Here's where it created a higher high, and thus forming the range, the structural defining range. You've had a sweep of this, though, into range level. It's just whether that manages to hold or not. It's retesting it now, so maybe this is a good entry. I would much rather see it touch demand, but it doesn't have to. No, there's no reason why it has to come all the way down there. Like maybe this is the trigger that it's giving you. It gave a sweep and is coming back close, so maybe that's trigger right there. If you do decide to take a trade based off of that, just be aware that it could come all the way down here before finding the higher low. Just something to be aware of. And Kibo Shib. Okay. Much older token. Oh, it's almost 2 years old. Let's go to monthly then. Ooh, it's one of those rare occurrences where we get to look at a monthly time frame. Interesting, right? Why did I initially, I didn't even look here. I was just like over here looking at that, and then it just so happens to align with that. But why did I mark that? Well, this was a monthly level that had swept. I mean, ginormous wick. Maybe that was MEV, I don't know, but like a massive monthly wick there. And look at how important that level has gone on to be in the future for a monthly structure. You mark this out too. There's your monthly range, right? It's a massive range, but there's your monthly range. Let's go to weekly. See what we've got. Okay. Here's weekly demand. Aligns with that monthly breakout level. Important, right? On coins with a lot of history, you want to start as high time frame as possible because sure, there was trades to be had daily in between that monthly range. But if you're like, okay, if you have the patience and you're really a long-term view and you're like, okay, if it ever comes down into this level, I will bid the fuck out of that zone. Well, monthly is where you want to do that. And then weekly. You have a monthly and weekly confluence here. And on daily, let's take a look. Okay, daily, it's still dealing with some bearish trends, right? Why do I say that? Well, here's your daily range high. Here's your daily range low. But look how important that was. You got your sweeps, took a while, more sweeps, and then it finally bounced. But why counter trend? This is a tough one because you have 3 different time frames you're juggling. You have monthly and weekly bullish, daily bearish, but then looking for that lower, and in this case, daily being lower time frame, the counter trend signal to get into a trade. Now, why is the daily bearish here? Well, it's pretty simple. Because you close below here, making a lower low on daily. And you can, this really highlights, this particular chart right now is really highlighting why it's important to identify your structural range, because you can see as soon as you do that, when you get up into there, you cannot feel overly bullish and FOMO into those levels. Or when you get there, you're not like, oh, we're going to the moon, and then it starts to sell off. You have a reason to say, okay, maybe I shave some off here. I close that trade and wait for a new trade to unfold, right? Because it is a bearish range on daily, but monthly, weekly, bullish. So now you're just in here looking for other triggers to get on board this trade. You know, maybe it's another sweep of this level on daily, which would be within the weekly demand. Maybe it's back down to the monthly level down there. I don't know yet. You have to wait for this to unfold, but it's a very high time frame chart. You don't want to be micromanaging this on low time frames. Like if we were to go to hourly, like what are you supposed to do with this, right? So it's not even worth your time. You're gonna get yourself chopped up a million ways before it finally decides which direction it wants to go. Even H4 is choppy as fuck. When maybe H12, you have a little bit better signal. I mean, H12 made a higher high here. And so and look at how that level that I marked out becomes important then, because H12, as soon as it closed above here, and not just a sweep, but closed above there, with that close there, immediately you're saying, okay, where's the demand on this thing? Well, there it is, right? There's your H12 demand. You can even tighten this up because we've had a few interactions now, and now we can say, okay, in here is where I'm looking for an H12 setup. Keeping in mind daily is still bearish, but you're starting to get higher time frames realigning with the high time frame, right? Like the super high time frame. You're starting to get an increasing realignment across time frames. So there could be H12. Okay, everyone, that was quite a stream. We went through a good chunk of tokens. Got 9 of you left here, and I do appreciate each and every one of you that are stuck through to the end. Always the troopers that do that with me. I know these can get a little long-winded, so maybe the move is to start moving these into twice a week and doing 90-minute streams to keep more participation and keep the participation a little bit more active throughout them. And I could also start this talk a little bit quicker doing the analysis. But I felt today was important to really drill home the structure defining ranges. And let's just take a look. Any other questions from the chat? It seems as though it's calmed down in the chat and everyone seems good. Let's just go over a couple things then. This is the dailyedge.com, where you can go. And don't forget to go to the dailyedge.com/subscribe. I need to do an overhaul of this website. I want to rebrand, like, it needs to look a lot sleeker. It's not up to our branding standards, and it needs a bit of an overhaul. We've just been super busy with other things, but you can see all of our newsletters here. I want to refresh this whole page and get it more on brand with how we look. So you can look out for that soon. I just need to find the time to put aside to adjust it. This is just a quick site that OCW threw together so that we could start publishing content, but it's time. It needs a refresh to be more on brand. But don't forget the dailyedge.com/subscribe, where you can get the newsletter sent to you directly, because we are brought to you by the Daily Edge. This is Astrology for Men. I am 0xRapture, and also brought to you in partnership with Chain Edge, where all the links can be found in the description below. Chain Edge is an on-chain data analytics platform tracking in real time the real-time flows of the top 0.01% of DEX wallets by profitability. We track EVM and Solana. So we have two sides: the Solana side, the EVM side. We have the portfolio summary, which is a great tool for seeing where flows are being directed and where wallets are parking their capital. You can see CB still high up there. GOAT is overtaken with the most amount, but they've also shaved quite a bit. It's up to 17 million now, though. Maybe we should take a quick pop back and see what GOAT is looking like. Oh, it's attempting to make a higher high close on H1. We'll see. And also we have the beautiful alpha stream, which is the real-time transactions flowing. And we can see them all occurring in real time across EVM and Solana, and you can filter those to only see certain types of transactions within certain time frame, age of tokens, by wallet P&L, transaction value, various category that you can filter for, so that you can be filtering out the noise and zeroing in on signal based off of how you like to trade. Let's pull that out. Once again, I am 0xRapture. This has been Astrology for Men, brought to you by the Daily Edge and Chain Edge. Don't forget that links are in the description below, where you can find links to the Daily Edge, Chain Edge, our Twitters, both for the Daily Edge, for Chain Edge, myself, On-Chain Wizard as well, not myself being On-Chain Wizard, but you can find the links to our X accounts for On-Chain Wizard and for myself. You can also find links to the Daily Edge Telegram channel, which is just a hub for finding things related to the Daily Edge. You can also find links for the Astrology for Men AFMTG group, which is the group that is the companion to these live streams, where we're in there chatting all the time, where I'm answering questions. We've got a bunch of other guys that have been brought on as admins that are doing wonderful work, helping out in the chat, learning setups, learning processes, asking questions. It's a great place to be. I would highly recommend, if you want to take your charting seriously, to join the Telegram group. It's also where the requests for the streams take place. You can also be a casual observer. You don't have to participate if you don't feel up to it. Just being in there, you're going to get actionable information on higher time frame setups, but also be able to witness a live trading environment in the war room. Also, if you are looking for becoming a subscriber of Chain Edge, in the description you will find a promo code to get yourself 10% off lifetime fees of Chain Edge. Make sure to copy the promo code from the description, and don't let me read it off, because it looks like it is 0xRapture 0x10 off. So you might want to just make sure you copy that correctly. And if you have any issues with that, you can always pop in the AFMTG and ask for help, or for the code itself, because I'm in there daily. And if you are looking for a new trading terminal venue to do your trading on, consider using my BullX ref link. It's not a paid promotion or official affiliation. It's just my personal ref link that if you use, you get 10% off your trading fees, and gives me a little bit of kickback when you do. Helps to put these shows on. It's nothing crazy, nothing much, but every little bit counts. And it just shows, it's a great venue to trade off of, a lot of great features. I would highly recommend if you're looking for a new trading terminal venue. Let's just take a look one more time in the chat, see what's going on. Kimberly says, great stream. Thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate you being here. Radu, my buddy Tarzan, thank you for the stream. Thank you for being here. Len GP, I remember you from last time. Thanks for being here again. Thank you as well. And to everyone else tuned in or that watches these in the replays, I appreciate you all. Thank you for showing up and for learning and being on this journey with me, because the more I do this, the more I learn too. I'm still learning little bits here and there and how to perfect my analysis. It's a constant process. We're never done learning. The moment we think we're done and the moment we think we've nailed it, that's the moment that our edge erodes, because you have to adapt to the market and to different conditions, and to being able to recognize patterns that are working today that aren't working tomorrow, or that have never been a pattern that start to be a pattern in the future. So that's just a part of the game. And on that, I will say ciao and leave you with some music, as I like to do. Until next time, everyone, thanks for being along.